Gods and monsters. Now this, what I'm about to...
Welcome everyone. Hello, Shaun.
Hey, James. And you know what? You always tell me I'm busting your balls, and I want to tell you that 10, 9, 8 countdown is great, and it makes me feel like I'm in a Regal theater waiting for an IMAX 3D movie to start, which there will be 30% fewer Regal theaters with IMAX 3Ds, but it's still great.
Cool story, bro. Cool story.
No, I love it. Yeah, I like the countdown thing you did.
That's the effect. That's the effect I was wanting.
Well,
I did it just for you.
You nailed it.
Yes. Let's say hi to Bobby. Okay, first of all, everyone, welcome. I'm super excited for the stream. DC's Slate has been revealed by James Gunn, and we are getting the Authority, and I'm so pumped about that. It means we will probably get a planetary something in the future. I hope so. Let's say hi to the chat first. Bobby, hi everyone. Going to play a little Disney Dreamlight Valley before stream. See you soon. Hey Bobby, thank you for joining us. Good to see you. And yes, you've been digging that Disney. It's been taken away from your Animal Crossing time, but that's fine. Sheep Plays says he likes the Slate, but so we'll see what he has to say. I did ask him what he was thinking, and we'll see. We got Barry saying, well, hello there. Or Stay Lifted Productions. Hello there, Barry. And he said he can't help but feel underwhelmed by Underwhelmed. It's not even the full slate. It's not even, it's just the first start of it. And they already announced Superman, Supergirl, all that stuff we'll get to. Chrisla says, Knuckle Supper time. You know what? I'll give him that quick. If I can find it. Where are you? Just for him. Oh, I can't find it. Oh, well. Then we'll just give him this one. Sorry about that, Chris. Hello, Shaun Soundtracks. Thank you for waving hello. It's good to see you. See, Daniel knows what's up. He's excited for Authority. And Stay Lifted says, best live show on YouTube back on the air. Thank you. Thank you, Barry. You're not biased at all. Bobby, hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. And then this auto message shows up on the Facebook sometimes. What did you guys think about Book of Boba Fett episode 3? So I have to delete that every time. That's pretty funny.
Is episode 3 the one with the mod kids on the scooters?
I think so. Yeah. That was a travesty.
If Paul Weller's not among them, I don't want to know from Kids on Scooters.
All right. So the DC slate. Let me bring up the proper branding here. There we go. And
Gods and monsters. Now this, what I'm about to tell you, is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter.
So did you watch the Slate announcement, Shaun? Did you have time?
No, I read it. I literally just left a 3-hour long meeting, and I read it during a break during the meeting. I read the announcement in the Hollywood Reporter.
Okay, so let's start off with Creature Commandos, which I was just like at the start, but I'll play you the clip here.
Creature Commandos is an animated series. I've written all the episodes.
Right. The one. You notice the Weasel in there from the Suicide Squad, right?
Yep.
So I think that was like it's his vehicle to put one of his characters in, which is fine. But the Frankenstein is what intrigued me.
The thing that intrigued me most about the Creature Commandos announcement is that they want to find actors to do the voices that they can cross over and use in live action. Yeah. When they bring those characters in. That's a big step away from everything everyone's done with animated stuff based on comic books all along.
How do you think that was a hard argument for him and Safran to win over with the board? Because when you were at WB, there's properties you couldn't touch in animation that they were saving for live action, and to get the voice actors to do those was tough too, wasn't it?
it wasn't that hard to get people. I mean, there were people who wanted to do it, and their representatives were not real hot on it, like the Brad Garrett story about the second voicing of Lobo. But the idea is, the thing is that the studio people thought they wanted animation to like come after film. They didn't want the animation to be pushing things forward, which actually it was in a lot of ways. But they thought they were so separate things that they thought anybody who was doing voice work could not cross over and do the live action stuff, which is kind of ridiculous, because, you know, Hamill certainly could have played the Joker at any given point, and he did it really. That trickster stuff he did on the two Flash shows is pretty much,
that was great. Yeah,
the Joker, and it was great. I mean, the one that Chaykin wrote for the first Flash series is probably the best episode of that series. The trial of the trickster begins with people outside protesting, "In your guts, you know he's nuts." But it's interesting that's a part of the plan now, which shows that it's a whole different level. Also, the other thing, some of these projects, I don't know how they're going to be a PG or PG-13 rating. And that's what we were talking about last week with, you know, will Marvel go for R rating? Well, if you're doing The Authority, isn't that kind of, how can you do a PG-13 and really do it justice?
Wasn't the Suicide Squad rated R?
Was the Suicide Squad?
Yeah, I was rated R, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah,
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, let me see here.
R. Yep. R. Yep.
Yeah, thought so. So it was rated R, so I could see them, and it's a feature film, The Authority. It's not a TV series,
right?
So I could see that being rated R. We'll get into. I want to break down. A lot of people don't know who The Authority is, so we'll get into that in a bit. And then, but yeah, that could, it wouldn't surprise me if they went rated R. But again, it's kind of like the Deadpool and the MCU interweaving, like tone him back for when he intermixes, because they said on the Authority announcement that they will be mingling with all the other main characters, right? It's not just going to be Pocket Universe.
And the other interesting thing is that this is all of a piece, right? Like Marvel Studios, the TV was a different thing than the features, and the animation was a different thing still from the features. And I know when Loeb was in charge of television, he didn't want to do an adult series. He said animation should be for kids. Right. And it was, so there were divisions within divisions, and this seems like it's a whole holistic way of looking at these characters and looking at this world and building it across all the platforms, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And it seems like it's going to be very taxing too. Like the plans for 8 to 10 years, and we only heard, he said it was like the first little bit of the first stage too.
Right.
So, the Waller thing, we did a video on that on our other small screen channel, the Waller series.
The next project up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis.
Well, you got Viola Davis in a TV series. That's kind of like 90% of your job is done.
Mm-hmm. And she's going to be intermixing with the Peacemaker squad, he said in that announcement as well. So we'll get Peacemaker season 2, and then probably Waller. Right.
Sorry, the dog is adjusting himself, and it's pushing my desk back and forth.
No problem.
So that's showing that to me that he's really thinking about integrating all of these things, which is kind of interesting, because now it looks like we're going to have 2 Batman, right? We're going to have
that'll be Robert Pattinson's will be an Elseworld. Like anything that's not in the Gunn Safran universe is going to be called the Elseworlds now, labeled as that. So like the Joker, Robert Pattinson's Batman, and probably, I don't know. You think they're still going to do the Penguin TV series?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think it's already signed and going through. And if you don't, you probably have to pay some kind of penalty for Farrell. So
yeah, and you have Colin Farrell, right? So
why wouldn't you?
Yeah. So I think those will be the Elseworlds. So there is still a chance for other properties to come in, but I don't think any of the Snyderverse stuff will come in. That's done.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. But so like the big question now is what's going to happen to the Flash and what's going to happen to Shazam with this.
Yeah, he did talk about those in the announcement, and he said that he was excited for Shazam and Aquaman 2, and said like the Flash, like what we were all thinking is like a way to reboot the universe, right? They're using that as an excuse and this way it'll feel more organic, and then it leads into Aquaman 2, right? Because Shazam Fury of the Gods leads in the Flash.
Right.
Flash leads into Aquaman 2.
Right.
And then after Aquaman 2, then it's all Gunn and Safran's projects, all the new stuff.
Right. Now, it could be a good move to just finish those projects out and then just move away from them.
That's what I'm thinking they're going to do.
But him saying that, he has to sort of say we're still excited about these projects because of so much, especially the Flash, everything that's been invested in legal aid, if nothing else, is interesting. But it also, I think a lot has to do with how well the Flash does at the box office. I mean, I think a lot will be forgiven if it does really, really well, and they'll figure that now he's set up this Elseworlds construction, so you can just keep on going over there. And I don't think, a lot of the thing used to be with Warner's was that they didn't want confusion. Like they were sort of their nose was kind of out of joint about Batman Beyond because it didn't look enough like Batman. And they were afraid people would be confused if there were two Batmen and they were two different Batmen. And, obviously nobody was really confused by that. So it shows that there is some change inside the corporate structure there.
Yeah, I think they learned a lot from the CW series with having Grant Gustin and then Ezra Miller. But even Ezra Miller made a cameo in the original Suicide Squad, and he was in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and that was about it. Like,
no, he did a cameo in the Grant Gustin Flash TV series.
Yeah. I'm talking about
at the end of Crisis.
Yeah, I'm talking about like keeping it separate though, on like movies and TV, and like not confusing the audience.
Right.
So he didn't have that much exposure, but everyone knew who he was, and he was very vocal, and obviously in the media and stuff. But I think. So, do you think we're gonna have more than one Superman?
Well, I know we are. I mean, because we've got Gunn working on the Superman project, and we've got Superman and Lois is picked up for another season. So at least we're going to get at least another 13 to 20 episodes of that, right?
Yeah, but I mean in the film universe,
I don't see why you wouldn't if you can come up with something that would. That's right, Zeus. Yeah. Zeus is private chatting me, so I'm sorry the rest of you can't see this. It would be, I don't think it would hurt. I think what they're seeing is the only thing that it's going to hurt is overexposure of characters. That's going to be the problem they have to worry about. They don't have to worry about confusion. Obviously the audience is into it, but like we've been talking about with Marvel and Star Wars and things like that. Is there going to be audience, is the audience going to get tired of this stuff and it's not special anymore? Right. I mean, we'll be really excited to see the reboot of Superman. We'll be really excited to see this Batman project with Damian Wayne in it.
I'm pumped for that. I love that run, Grant, and for Grant Morris's run, and just pairing Frank Quietly with him as the artist was perfect. And I think that's what saved Mark Miller's Authority run as well, was Frank Quietly. It really added
Quietly.
Hey, it's Quietly for me, okay?
Okay.
But yeah, so before we get into he was in the tag at the end of Momoa's Aquaman. Who, Superman?
No. At the end of Peacemaker, there was that thing where the Justice League show up.
Oh yeah, at the end of Peacemaker, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought everyone didn't like that, and they were all like mad, but I thought that was a sign that they were still respecting those characters, and that they would still continue on.
Yeah, that they actually, it was a sign, it was a nod towards Snyder's work that this is still there. And I didn't get a lot of the criticism of Peacemaker that it was too funny and things like that, because I actually thought it was, once it got its legs underneath it, it was kind of an emotional show inside of the silliness.
It was very surprising. Surprising.
Yeah. And that's what I like about what Gunn does. He does this silly stuff, but he knows, it's sort of like the 80s gross out comedy paradigm, where like you gross out, but it needs to have a really good heart to it to make it work. American Pie or something like that, and he understands that.
Yeah, and he knows he can get to the character's core as well, and he does a full character arc. You know, like I did not think John Cena would be that good in that show, and you'd be feeling bad for him by the end of the show. You know,
Yeah, I actually think he's by far the worst actor on that show, but it pulls off and it works well.
It helps that the character is not too complicated, you know. I mean, yeah, the complications with the father figure and his backstory, he pulled that off in the acting. But as far as not having to be serious, like he pulled off the comedy pretty well. It wasn't too cheesy. I didn't think so.
Yeah, he's a broken child. He's still. I mean, what's really smart about it, I think, is that Peacemaker and Vigilante are quite obviously children. They're refusing to grow up, and that's a part of it. And I think that's a really smart approach to this kind of programming.
And everyone's worried that we're going to get all these gun jokes and stuff in these. Yeah, sure, we'll have some, but he's not going to be writing and directing every film and every TV series. You know, like Crystal said, Doom Patrol writers working on the Waller series. That's encouraging on a number of levels. One, for the show and the upcoming shows and films, but also, and also because that they're taking who's done really good work at DC in the past and bring them on board to these new projects, which I thought that was great.
What I'm hoping is that Gunn, who knows the material really well, will have some respect for the creators and maybe bring some of them on board in a real way.
Well, if he says that he respects the characters, so if he respects the characters as much, then he's got to respect the creators and the work that's come before. I think so. That's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna bring in. We are joined by Zeus from Ryan's All Things Geek TV. Nice to see you, Ryan. Or Zeus.
How's it going, everybody?
Thanks for joining us.
Hey.
What were your initial thoughts on the slate?
I liked it. I mean, so a lot of stuff I wasn't, and I'm a huge comic book fan, been reading my entire life, but the initial slate stuff, I was like, oh, I don't really know this monster aspect as much. So I was a little off on some of that. But I'm really intrigued. But there's things like the Brave and the Bold. Are we going to get all the Robins? That's what I want to know. Will Tim Drake get the respect he deserves as being, the greatest Robin of them all? In my opinion, listen. Every time Batman says who's the best detective, who's the best fit to take over for him, it's Tim. So
Dick Grayson would like a word, sir.
But Dick Grayson, here's my thing with that though. Dick Grayson is he's learned from Batman. He's a great leader because he's not Batman. Because he's more Superman than he is Batman. Yeah. He's that symbol of hope. And he will just as likely be like Barry Allen and try to sit down with one of his rogues gallery and try to talk him out of something rather than, Bruce putting you in traction for 6 months. And that's a really
That's a really good point. Yeah, because he chose Nightwing because that's from Kandor. Yeah, that's really good.
Damian's a killer, and he I don't think he would ever, like, as much as they write him as wanting to become the Bat one day, I don't think he'd ever want that either. I think he'd want to be his only person. And Tim's always been that one Robin that's always just wanted to become Batman. First it was to make Batman a better Batman. And then to one day, he's like, he embraces it. So
right.
Yeah.
What about Jason Todd?
I mean, the vote said it all, right? I love Jason Todd now, but it's like they said it was in the Batman cartoon or maybe Justice League. When was the last time you inspired somebody was when you died?
Yeah.
When you said that to Superman. Same thing with Jason Todd. It took him dying to be as cool as he is. I'm sorry, coming in with the hot takes.
No. As far as the best Robin though, that's a tough call. I'm a huge Dick Grayson fan. I'm a huge Nightwing fan, right? I see your point about Tim Drake and his run by Chuck Dixon was really good. Dixon and Grummett, that was really good, and that really fleshed out the character for me.
Yeah.
And then
I
like
dug his run. Like Young Justice was my jam. Young Justice and Teen Titans, like that when it became Tim's team with Tim, Connor, Cassie. I think they had Bart on the team as well.
yeah,
Like that was my favorite run. I think Jeff Johns had a run with them as well there, where we got the evil Lex or the evil Connor Kent, where he shaves his head and puts the L on his shirt. So I don't know. As we ramble on there, I'm just excited to see. I just that's all when it comes to this though. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping because he did say we're going to get to see the beginning of the Bat family, but I'm hoping Damien's not the beginning of the Robins. I'm hoping Dick's already Nightwing. I'm hoping we don't know where Jason is. We still think Jason's dead, and I hope he shows up as Red Hood. And then Tim and Dick are trying to be like the mentors to Damien.
yeah. If it's based off, sorry, Sean. If it's
go
based
ahead.
off the Grant Morrison run, then we will probably see the other Robins will be introduced to Nightwing, like you're saying, and maybe the Red Hood. I'm looking if they can pull that off with that big epic ending, right, in the tower, and we're gonna I don't want to give, I don't know if anyone's read it or not, but like the Damien clones and stuff, and then the big sword fight at the end, like, and the Ra's al Ghul's role in it, like that's a very smart move, and I'm very happy. I'm just gonna
The DCU's Batman is the brave and the bold. The story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line, and so this is the story of the two of them. This is based on Grant Morrison's great comic book run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin, the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU.
The last time I got into DC to pitch was a while ago, and the story I was trying to pitch them because they wanted me to do a fill-in. The story I was trying to pitch them was a ripoff of O. Henry's Ransom of Red Chief, where Harley kidnaps Robin to try and get Batman to do what she wants to get the Joker free, and Robin just creates havoc for Harley and her henchmen. And about halfway through the story, Harley figures out that not only is Robin fucking with them, but he really likes fucking with them, and she just gives him back.
Which Robin was that?
It was Damien. It was Damien.
Yeah.
Damien had in my story, Damien had a really good time messing with them. He didn't want to escape. He just wanted to ruin Harley and her henchman's day.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
See, I wasn't a big fan of Damien at the start until it was Grant Morrison's run, and then I was like, wow, okay, now this kid's growing on me. I thought he's just a whiny brat. And the animated film Son of Batman was great. That was one of my
Stuart
my problem with Damien is with all the crap Bruce has in that belt, he doesn't have a fucking condom in there.
Did they retcon that though?
He was drugged, wasn't he?
So he was raped. Oh, that's better.
Yeah, but they stole his DNA, I think it was.
Oh,
but,
okay, yeah.
But yeah, originally it was a night of lust. I think I think it was date rape though. The original story. I think she drugged him and slept with him, and that's how she got the bat seed, if you will.
Which is
he could have just pulled that out of his utility belt.
He could have just pulled. He could have just pulled out. Period.
There we go.
Right.
Set you up for that.
Thank you. Yeah, you put the ball on the tee stand and hand me the bat.
That's it. Eh? Line it
We
up.
hit the 6.
But I wonder, like with the doing all the Robin stories, like it's still sort of year one Batman in Gunn's version, right? In the Brave and Bold, or is it? I don't know. That's
I don't think
Damien's alive. How could it be year one?
Yeah,
and
I don't know how.
That.
I don't know how they're doing it. And also the idea is like, I mean, what I did in that was like, does nobody talk about how many kids this guy's going to endanger I mean, if you get one, that's fine. If you get two and one's his son, that makes sense. But so there's two others out there, and one got killed, and he still went on and got more of these kids. It's
they'll reference that. I mean, they did in Titans too. Right?
Did
But
they?
who would reference it though? Because the only people that would know that would be the Justice League.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have some characters in there that'll, hell, like Midnighter will probably say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the dark of the night, but at least I'm not endangering children.
Yeah, exactly.
Too
Oh
funny.
man. Okay, we're gonna bring in Barry. Barry, you ready there behind the scenes?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for having me. How is everyone?
Good. Welcome, Barry.
Great.
Welcome. Barry is from Stay Lifted Productions. You can catch their live streams pretty much every night on Twitch. Are you guys still banned on YouTube?
We don't play anything on YouTube. We just put up edited content when I get around editing it, which isn't very often.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. What was your initial thoughts of the slate, Barry?
Well, again, I've never been as much on the DC side as I am on the Marvel side, but I'm excited for a lot of it because I've seen what Gunn does in the Marvel side. For instance, like, given he's writing so much, I'm a little worried he's going to start to Taiki Watiki it a bit. But but it seems like Gunn knows how to restrain himself really well, build amazing characters. Like, look what he did with Yondu, and how he concluded that arc. I think he's going to write brilliant things with Superman and with the creatures.
I'm a little worried about his Superman, and
Why?
I think Gunn's great, but his forte from like his career that I've always noticed is taking those anti-hero types, those reluctant heroes almost, and giving them that big redemption story. Whereas Superman, as boring as it is, the best Supermen are always Boy Scouts from the day they're born to whenever, that's
Well,
I don't mean to get back to the Zod thing, but that would have been the last possible thing he would have thought of.
Right.
we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, and Shaun you have a good take on Superman, where you think that WB has gone wrong. The father figure thing.
Yeah, he's a father figure. Superman's not on our level. He's something to aspire to. He doesn't need to be relatable. He needs to be inspiring, and that's what all the other characters are there for, to be relatable. I mean, once I started taking stuff apart, I realized that with the brilliance of what the radio show brought in was Lois, Jimmy, and Perry always getting in trouble, and Superman's got to rescue them. And for as corny as the radio show is, the thing that it really got down is that he can do all this stuff, but he can't be in two places at once. So he always has choices to make. So he's wrestling with a lot. And I think that's the way to go with the character. I mean, I think that's what Christopher Reeves, that's what the Dick Donner movie did so well.
For sure. I think Superman's always written best when you're giving him the trolley test. That's because he is so godlike. That's the only real, you either have to go emotion or go the trolley experiment.
Right.
And, who's going to survive and who's not.
Right. And being an elderly person, I can tell you that the thing about the first movie that was so great was that Lois seemed really of the time. She seemed really dialed into what was going on in the late 70s with women and with liberation. And the fact that she was sort of bowled over by this square was, that was something that really drove that movie. Yeah. Plus the fact, that what Donner did was that he wasn't afraid to let Superman get mad and control it. The whole walking through the Luthor's test thing, which was just to show what he could do at the end. He's pretty fed up with this. Yeah.
So it's not going to be like Brightburn, Zeus,
No. Well, I don't think that at all. James Gunn isn't that type. I mean, even Slither isn't that Redburn type, but he will. I will love his take on Jimmy Olsen. I know that for a fact. Like, I think he could do Superman's pal Jimmy and do an HBO Max series just on that.
Starring Shaun Gunn. starring his brother.
See, all those perfect Superman stories are actually what I don't like about the character. To me, his two best comics are The Death of Superman and Injustice.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see Gunn take a morally right and properly structured Superman to that conclusion of Injustice.
You're so edgy, Barry.
Yeah.
You're so
Well,
edgy.
what about for the man who has everything?
Yeah,
Right.
that would be great.
Oh my God, that would be a great storyline.
Yeah, we did it in Unlimited, and it, I think that would be a good way to sort of like bring it into the movies. I mean, because you have all the other characters in there, struggling to get stuff done.
So if you're James Gunn, do you already have Superman established, and do you already have it because we're getting the Green Lantern series? So is the world already aware of these superheroes right now? Because that's what it seems like to me.
I'm gonna say yes, because he publicly stated it's not an origin story.
Right.
So Superman's are already established, but it's younger Superman, so the world will be aware of him. But for the man who has everything, you have to have Wonder Woman in there, and you have to have Mongol, right?
But you don't even need to know who Mongol was before. You just need to know that he's a big indestructible guy,
right?
Yeah. If I'm James Gunn, and James has heard me pitch this numerous times, if I'm doing a Superman movie, I'm doing a period Superman set in the 1960s with John Hamm as a Superman who's been around for 10 years. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, but
I do like that James opened up and just flat out said we're still going to have that type of, well, as you said, the Elseworld story. Yep. So there can be, because the most I was excited about DC recently was for the Batman, because originally it was supposed to be a one-off, just like the Joker, just going to be a standalone movie. Then they announced the Gordon series, and then an Arkham series, or
the Penguin,
Penguin. Sorry,
right,
and I'm like, what happened to a trilogy? I'm like, you were just supposed to tell one cool story.
money.
Go home. Yeah,
but I feel like Gunn will let that type of thing happen now. Like, hey, here's a cool story I want to tell. Cool, it's an Elseworld. Go have fun with it.
Yeah. That's really a great idea, because remember when Marvel Comics were in trouble with Quesada, one of the things Quesada did was just, we're going to do away with continuity, we're going to do arcs, and they don't need to pay attention to everything. And I think that's the way to go after movies now. I mean, we need a whole, you don't need origin stories for everybody. Come on, everybody knows who Superman is, everybody knows who Batman is. People even have a pretty decent idea of who Green Lantern is.
This isn't
between all the other stuff. Right. Right.
To piggyback on your point, Shaun, you look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man, arguably the best of all the Spider-Man movies that we've seen.
Yep.
And there's no origin. There's no Uncle Ben.
Right.
There's no Uncle Ben. Like, we got the power and responsibility, but we got it from Aunt May.
Right.
And what at the time was considered the last Spider-Man movie out of the Tom Holland verse. But I mean, we don't need to see Batman's parents mowed down again.
I was gonna say,
we don't need to see Smallville again.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I see
we're
those
not going to see the pearls
bounce off the ground one more time, I give up on DC altogether. Like, a gold necklace, can it be any other type of necklace? Does it have to be pearls?
Yeah, no, it has to be pearls. Continuity. If you're going to show that scene, you got to show it right.
I forget which one of my Facebook friends said, but if they do the next Batman movie, we need to see his origin in even slower motion. But we know this stuff, so let's just jump into the world and get it going. It's like, people are not going to be walking around, they're going, how do people get superheroes? There's been 31 Marvel movies. We understand how that stuff works now.
Give us the origin stories for the lesser known characters.
Well,
if you want to bring in new viewers, then do it in those.
But look at how
we don't really need it.
Yeah, look at. By the way, thanks, Bobby, for your comment. Look at what Gunn did with Polka Dot Man, for God's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
You got enough of an origin to know that this guy is tortured, and then he pays it off in it's like 3 story beats, and it all pays off beautifully.
That's what I think. I think Booster Gold is a good property to have, and as a series too.
Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. It is basically the superhero story of imposter syndrome on an HBO Max series.
Yep, that's
Now-
great. That's great. My kid is so stoked over Booster Gold.
Me
The
too.
only thing they're pissed off about is that Blue Beetle's not called. for
Yeah,
in it.
well,
Yeah.
there's Ted Cord still could show up though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think
and
he's
they-
supposed to be in the one with Jolo. The Jaime Reyes
Yeah, that's
one
right.
movie.
That's right.
So
Chrysler
just because you mentioned
messaged
him.
very nice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Chrysler
That's
messaged me
right.
today, and he said, I wouldn't be surprised if they got Chris Pratt to play Booster Gold.
Only his voice.
I said, one, he's too expensive. Two, it's a TV series. He's in the movies now, so I don't see him going. And they'll
I mean,
probably
he's got a lot of faith
get a
in Gunn
younger
as,
actor.
as a leader. So if Gunn asked him, I have a feeling he'd come over and say yes.
Yeah.
Not for
Yeah,
Booster Gold though. It would,
Yeah,
it would be
I-
a feature film role.
He has to
He
wear.
does. He
has
seems
to wear.
pretty humble.
He has to wear tights though, and Pratt's weight. I can imagine Thanksgiving. Chris Pratt's Thanksgiving is his father-in-law sitting at the head of the table going, "Are you sure you
Are
want
you-
another helping of mashed potatoes, Chris? Let me tell you how I got in shape for Conan. Not eating mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving."
How did the
Oh,
channel
no.
get more Arnold?
I'm already
Yeah.
want an actual older Booster Gold and Ted Cord, like a blue and gold series, and give me Nathan Fillion as Booster and Alan Tudyk as Ted Cord.
Oh, I like Alan Tudyk. I like
Wow,
I
that'd
like
be
that a
great.
lot. I like that a lot.
I just think of those two together. What was that, Con Men they did?
Con Man, yeah, that was a fantastic series.
Yeah,
I'm-
right.
I'm-
So
I'm not a big Nathan Fillion fan, as everybody's heard. And Has
No.
everybody heard my casting the vigilante story for Justice League Unlimited
just-
story?
Go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
Oh,
tell me the story.
Sam Elliott was interested in playing the cowboy vigilante in Justice League Unlimited, and
Right.
Bruce wanted
Nate?
Nathan Fillion because he thought of Firefly as a Western, so he thought it'd be a perfect Western character. And I went into the office and closed the door, and Bruce and I shared a secretary. And when I came out, he said, "I don't know what was going on in there, but it's never been that loud before. You guys were yelling so hard the door was going back and forth
No.
from screaming." And I'm like, "We got Sam Elliott to play a cowboy superhero." And Bruce is like, "No, he's too old, too mumbled mouth. It's a fucking cartoon. No one cares how old he is."
Turn up the volume. Oh my god, that's amazing. I don't know what's more amazing, that or the fact I think I just watched that episode the other day with Hawk Girl, Vixen, and Vigilante. Yeah.
It's a great episode.
Oh my god, that is probably the greatest DC property is the Timberverse.
Now, imagine what it would have been like with Sam Elliott, though.
I agree.
Imagine how much better it could have been.
It was that just because he couldn't get Hal Jordan, so he's like, "Give me Vigilante."
So Shaun doesn't remember this episode. It was the one with Booster Gold, and he's trying to save the wormhole guy, the wormhole scientist.
Oh, and he falls.
And
in love
everyone
with
and everyone keeps going, "Thank you, Green Lantern. Thank you, Green Lantern." I hope we get that in the Booster Gold series.
that was the
'cause
Jeremy
was-
Piven episode. Jeremy
Yeah.
Piven's elongated man.
Yeah.
Squeaky
exactly.
wheel, squeaky wheel.
No. Yeah. No, there was.
They used
I
that joke
swear
in
I'm
the
cool.
Ant-Man trailer as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Thanks, Spider-Man.
So it's called Superman Legacy. What hints do you think we can take away from that? Legacy.
Is it going to be
You think
the
it's
end
good-
of the Superman, and is it going to be Death of Superman, and then bring back another Superman?
I think it has.
Are we going to get the return of Shaquille O'Neal as Steel? Oh boy!
I think that Death of Mr. Kent is
Stop it.
my idea.
I think
So
it's going
we'll
to
see his
be.
dad die by the end of the thing, because he said a younger Superman, right? So
Yeah.
he's already Superman, but he's still around the farm in some capacity.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guess
Oh,
it's
his
gonna
dad
be,
dying.
Yeah, much like the Henry Cavill, the first one.
Yeah, no, that
who
that
plays
ties
his
into
dad
what I.
again?
Steel.
Waterworld.
Kevin Costner.
Kevin
Kevin
Costner.
Costner
But-
plays his dad.
Yeah, but that ties into what I was thinking, where it'd be where it's not an origin story, but it may be him coming into the mainstream on everyone's radar.
Yeah.
You know, like becoming the savior, like the protector of the world, I guess.
Not just
You know.
pulling cats out of trees, like on his way to
Yeah.
Metropolis type idea.
Yeah,
That's
I
what I'm
don't.
thinking.
I kind of trust Gunn. I mean, last week I was talking about, does it need to be the biggest story of Superman's life, or can it be just a more simple story? And I don't know. I kind of trust Gunn to sort of thread that needle between the two of them. I mean, my real problem with Superman as a character now is, what's a newspaper and what's a reporter anymore?
Right.
And that's a big part of how that, just the mechanics of that works.
Well, you make the Daily Planet more like you do it like they did in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What they did with the Bugle, and you make it like
Mhm.
either a web show or you make it like a CNN or a Fox News type of thing, where it's instead of a newspaper, it's now a television outlet.
Yeah,
In
or
Venom,
what-
it's an online newspaper, and in Spider-Man, it's a full like InfoWars,
Right.
crazy
Alex
vitamin
Jones.
selling. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if it's a struggling newspaper and that's part of the story? Like, how are you going to hold this world together?
The death of print.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about Superman and Lois was the first episode where Clark gets laid off because the Daily Planet's losing things, so they lay off Clark Kent and they keep Lois, and she's like, "What are we going to do?" And he's like, "I don't know. You make a lot of money, and I've got stuff to do."
Right. Bills to pay.
Yeah, Edward will be playing Superman.
I've never
That's
seen
right, Clint.
Edward and Superman together, so you cannot.
You're right. Right.
I don't know. I think the Superman movie, given like how Gunn is with family, and kind of always trying to put on that, not torment, but that difficult choice that someone's got to make. For me, I would think that this is maybe Superman 2 or 3 years out already living in Metropolis, already working at the Daily Planet, and this is more about maybe Pa Kent dies, and this is about him trying to balance Kryptonian life with Earth life, trying to walk that line, because
With the legacies of both fathers.
right,
Well,
the legacies of both cultures actually more, but with both fathers, right?
That's what the
Kryptonian
press release said, right? Was that it's going to be him trying to deal with his Kryptonian identity and his Earth identity, who he is.
There you go.
Yeah.
I didn't read the press release.
I'm not a
so-
writer, but that's what I do.
It said something like that, yeah.
What I'd like to ask Shaun, if we could talk about the Flash just for a second, given your experience in writing specifically for Superman, how would you how does everyone think they're going to? Because he said this is going to change and alter the DCEU to start anew in a way. So, like we all talked about in the past, how Flash is going to be, building everything together, but it seems like everyone's already not in it again, and so just reset or delete. What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be a reset. I think that's what a lot of the reshoots have been about. At the end, is that it's going to be like Flashpoint or Crisis, and at the end, it's a good chance for them to just change everything. Which for us is like, for those of us who've been around comics for a long time, that's just like, oh well, it's another summer event. But for the general public, not the 50,000 guys over 40 who read comics, that's going to be a change as big as introducing and it's going to be a change as big as introducing the multiverse was.
Well,
and DC gets to do it first this time before Secret Wars.
But do you incorporate the Crisis events?
That's
and is Flashpoint, because in the comics Flashpoint isn't really a Crisis event, but it is on that level, right?
Yeah, because it seemed like they were going Crisis on Infinite Earth almost, but now it seems like they can only go like Flashpoint Paradox.
If you're going to use the term crisis event to classify it rebooting the universe so the writers and the editors can do what they want with the characters to set everything up for the next stage, then yeah, it's a crisis event. Then Flashpoint was a crisis event because that's what Flashpoint did, right?
Yeah,
but I mean, Identity Crisis didn't do that. It didn't reboot everything.
Legit, that's my all-time favorite storyline.
It's a great storyline.
I know how divisive that is, but I've interviewed Brad and Rags about that, and oh my god, that I cry literally every time I read that storyline. The Tim Drake running up to his dad. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, ripping the mask off. And,
Elongated, man. Come on. Like,
oh my god, right? The jaw.
yeah.
Hold it
So Ralph
together.
Didney, like
Ralph, yeah, man.
the nose twitching and the detective. Yeah, it was great. But that didn't reset the universe. But it was still
No,
a
it didn't.
crisis.
Well,
That's true.
Remember that this is what the Flash we're going to see is not the movie that was originally made. It's a movie that's gone back and retooled several times. My guess from what I was reading about it originally was that it was going to open up the multiverse
Right.
for them because they were going to somehow rectify the Affleck
All the
Batman
properties. Yeah.
and the Keaton Batman and
Right.
Where is all this going now? It feels, from what I'm hearing and what they're saying, it feels like this is going to like hone it in and maybe like set for a restart.
I mean,
And,
I'm all right with that.
keep the pocket universes as well, though, for the Elseworlds. Okay?
Yeah, and the general public doesn't give a shit about pocket universes or stuff like that. It's once again, it's over 40 guys reading comics, who care about that stuff, so the idea like they have to make the fans happy. Well, I don't know if you've looked at sales figures lately. Nobody's making $200 million on a movie, with the current crap of comic book fans buying tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all made happy when they hired Gunn and Saffron. From there, we already knew the Flash was there, right? So whatever they do, we knew it was coming, and it's just going to be utilized as a tool now.
Well, it's making the four of us happy. I'm not sure that the
I am surprised they didn't move the Flash back to after Aquaman 2, though.
I don't think Gunn wants it around his neck.
Well, what I'm saying though,
straight up, he wants it just away.
2? Why, like, because we all know that Momoa.
But that's one of Saffron's properties originally.
Yeah, but they're never gonna announce. Chris messaged me today also about that. He's like, I'm surprised they didn't announce Lobo. I said, well, they can announce Lobo or anything about it until Aquaman 2 gets in theaters because they want to get those butts in the seats, right? So you're not going to hear anything from them, maybe hints and stuff, but the Flash, I think Aquaman 2 stands on its own so much that they're not worried about that continuity, and they already fixed that continuity, whether they got rid of Keaton and put Affleck in or they scrapped that now, we don't know. But first it was supposed to be Keaton doing a cameo in Aquaman 2, and then they switched that with Affleck coming in and doing a cameo in Aquaman 2.
Wasn't it both at one point?
Yeah, at one point it was both.
Right.
Both.
Yeah, and then afterwards it was both. But
I want Affleck's Batman script. I heard that was. I heard around like the talk around town that was the best Batman story ever written, like comics or movies.
Just he's like, if you've looked at the movies he's made, like The Town and stuff like that, just hand him. All right, Ben, how much do you want to do a Batman movie? You go do it. Call us when you're done.
Right.
And that can be one of the Elseworlds movies or something.
He doesn't even want to star in it.
I would insist on that because frankly, he was one of the things I really liked about that universe.
Same.
I thought he was a great Bruce Wayne, bad Batman.
Oh, see,
really?
I think he was written maybe as a bad Batman just because of if you're branding guys and you know they're going in jail and going to get murdered for having that brand on, Batman wouldn't do that.
Or run over people with your Batmobile.
Yeah.
Or run over people with your Batmobile.
We say that he kills in almost every iteration.
Oh
of
yeah,
the movies.
Batman Returns. He throws a guy down a sewer with a bomb. I get it.
Well, he's got machine guns in the Batmobile.
Bomb killed that.
He's got those grenades that pop out the hubcaps.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just even in Christopher Nolan's, him letting Ra's die is the exact same thing as killing Ra's al Ghul. I mean, that's like Jonathan Kent killing Superman not to save kids to protect his identity. Oh, too soon.
I just love the it makes sense if there was a real Batman, he would kill people. Well, if there's a real Batman, he'd probably be in a home someplace. So let's not talk about the reality of a guy who dresses up like a bat because as Howard Chaykin says, we've got 80 years of story about a guy who had a really shitty day when he was 8.
Well, I've got an answer for that.
Twilight? Well, the name just came to me. It's I mean, I was going to be out mostly at night, and I wanted to be a night, night with a K. And night just sounded like something your mom says to you when she puts you to bed.
Yeah, ties in perfectly. Go to twinight.com.
TWIKNIGHT.com.
Love it. It's like a Court of the Owls going on there.
It's what do you do when you're broke but your endless war against crime is not over?
I mentioned it to you earlier a bit, Zeus.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was it though.
It's a Batman-like superhero who loses everything in a personal injury lawsuit.
So I think Ben Affleck, I think he wouldn't want to act because he'll be directing. If you give him, here's all the money, Ben, go make your Batman movie. He's writing, he's directing. He's not going to want to star in it as well.
But he did that with Argo and The Town, right?
Yeah, but now he's older.
Wow. If Dave Bautista's having trouble at 53, he's like, can't do Drax anymore. All that drastic, rough stuff on those high wires. No.
The great quote I heard from Batista was, why are you leaving Marvel Universe? I thought I'd try acting.
I mean, I give him a ton more credit than I give The Rock for taking on roles that have some complexity, at least.
Right.
Oh, I agree.
Right. And the Rock is perfectly capable of doing those roles too. After we saw the Rundown, and he just like runs away for them to do San Andreas.
Oh, even before the Rundown, like Southland Tales, he was great in that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Pain and Gain was great.
Oh, no, nobody says Gridiron Gang.
I'm looking for Bautista. I'm really looking forward to Bautista's next film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
The book is fantastic.
Shyamalan one.
But
he was great in Glass Onion too, and that's not a typical character for someone like him to play.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
For once, I'm on the same page with James. I am yet to see Glass Onion.
I still have to see Knives Out, to be honest with you. I'm
I
saving
watched
that
Knives
for
Out,
a rainy day.
really dug it. Glass Onion I liked as well, but I liked it better after I watched a recap video where they showed like all the kind of hints that had actually happened throughout the movie that you missed the first time watching it. Like,
I'm still spoiler free from Knives Out and Glass Onion, so I'm gonna have to watch that on the weekend because I just put that out in the universe and I'm gonna get spoiled.
Well, I'll ruin it for you. Someone dies and someone figures out who did it.
Gods and monsters. Now,
Butler with a candlestick in the library.
Yes. Okay. We're gonna shuffle guests. So thank you guys for coming on, Zeus and Barry. Barry, where can we find you?
Stay Lifted Productions on Twitch.
Okay. Stay Lifted Productions on Twitch. All right. You can check that out there. And Zeus, what about you, sir?
Everywhere. I don't know. You can follow me on Ryan's All Things Geek. That's our main geek page. It's just mostly sharing pop culture news and a lot of memes. And we do a weekly talk show just like this. Weekly roundup every Saturday at 6:00. Me and my co-host, the Well and Wingnut. And we have fun. We have a few drinks and have a few Canadian cigarettes, if you know what I mean.
The Welland, Ontario.
Yeah, we're from Welland, Ontario, originally born, right? Yeah,
we're in Wasaga Beach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
and we partake a lot in the Canadian cigarettes on our channel while attempting to speak about some of these exact topics. Nowhere near as well informed as the rest of you.
They're New York cigarettes now too.
Yes. Oh, true. Congratulations.
I grew up in Buffalo and Aurelia, so
I live in Fort Erie right now.
Oh well. Let's have lunch. I'm living in Buffalo now.
Let's do it. I'd love that. We'll go knock on the door of, oh my God, I forgot his name and I've interviewed him a million times, but he lives here. He won the Oscar for Superman for special effects.
You're talking about you guys got to take a road trip to come visit me.
We'll share some Canadian cigarettes and some stories.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
And
Thank
California
you.
cigarettes
All
too, Bobby. All right.
All right, guys.
Great to meet everybody. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, and now we're going to bring in the one, the only Charlie Wilson.
Hey guys,
Charlie.
how you doing, fellas?
Howdy.
Good.
I gotta tell you, the Twilight, that looks hilarious. That looks
Thank you.
hilarious.
Thank
That
you.
killed me. I was dying.
Out looking for its place in film festivals now, and then if next year I'll probably take it around to conventions and stuff.
I'll be on the lookout. I will be on the lookout for it. I gotta watch that. That looks hilarious.
Thank you.
So, Charlie,
Mm-hmm.
what was your take on the slate?
I'm excited, man. You already know I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, so a Lantern show is something that I've probably been hoping for and looking forward to for a very long time.
Big premiere HBO television series called Lanterns. Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective with a couple of Green Lanterns.
Even more so because my guy John's in it. That's like my favorite Green Lantern of all time. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see him get the spotlight again.
I'm excited to see Jon Stewart. And for
so
those who
am I.
don't know, go down to the Then and Now podcast on YouTube. Charlie did a great video essay on Jon Stewart as Green Lantern and what it means to him.
Yeah, that's a really big influential character in my life personally. But that I'm a huge Viola Davis fan, so the potential of having a Waller show, I don't know what it will entail, but just the fact knowing that's like somebody of her acting quality is getting a show where she can like shine. I don't know if you guys have watched The Woman King at all recently, but that's another movie where you get to just see how well she can do in a starring role. So I'm excited to see her get that. I'm hopeful. I know a lot of people, mostly people aren't fans of James Gunn, or people are kind of skeptical about all the drama that's happened with Warner Brothers up until this point, but they got a guy in charge that has been shown to like revive a movie. Like he revived the Suicide Squad movie, gave you a good spin-off show in Peacemaker, made Guardians like a household name. I have the confidence that he can put the right people in place to make this stuff actually work. And now we have a plan in place.
Well, and to do what Gunn's really good at is these morally ambiguous characters, and that's all Amanda Waller is. Is it, she's the hard ass who does the hard jobs and suffers for it. I mean, as we've seen already in Gunn stuff, she suffers for it.
Exactly. I don't know how big of a fan you are of like the animated series, but I want to see her in whatever version of the Batman they're going to have in there. I'm ready to see them interact a lot more. Because in the animated series, that was like one of my favorite things, was to see them like their mind battle back and forth. Whether it's like I have dirt on you, or I know you did this, or you can't say this because I know this.
Which animated series?
The Justice League is probably the one they interacted the most in, and then JLU.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that stuff.
Oh man, you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm biased because I grew up on it, but that's some of like the best written animated stuff I've ever seen. Because it's basically them like going back and forth like mental battles, and it's amazing.
Charlie, man. Charlie.
I'm biased. I'll admit it.
You pick and choose. You pick and choose what I tell you, man.
What's up?
You need to watch a show.
Look at the credits, Charlie.
Credits?
I made it. I was a producer on the show.
Really? Oh man! I look.
That's okay. Nobody knows what animation people look like. Don't worry about it.
I know, because for me, keeping track of that stuff, I'd only really again, I watched it as a child, so I wasn't putting that much attention into all the parts that made it. I kind of just saw like the main names as far as the voice actors and things of that nature. But I have
Charlie, you've been listening to our new podcast. You've been listening to our new podcast because Shaun McLaughlin, associate producer of Batman Beyond and Justice League Unlimited, is our co-host. You've been listening to our podcast? Yeah,
I haven't yet. I started a new job.
Line producer and producer. Associate producer was changed during Batman Beyond.
In all fairness, I just started a new job and moved to a whole new city. So
That's okay.
All over
yeah, but I told you this back in October.
That is true. You did tell me that. But first off, before anything else, Shaun, I have to thank you. You were really influential in bringing something to my childhood and me as an individual, and brought me some of my favorite characters to ever exist. So thank you for that. I'm very thankful for that.
I'm very glad to hear it. So if you say "in my childhood" one more time, I have to leave because my wheelchair is double parked.
In my adulthood, in my old, that stuff's gonna follow me till I'm in the grave. Oh man, I'm an ass right now. I feel like an ass.
Danzig, priceless. Yeah, this is priceless.
I'm again, James. Thank you again because he's blessed me with like introducing me to people that have been very influential in my life up until this point, and this is insane. I'm kind of fanboying out a little bit now. I gotta collect myself.
You're acting like, yeah, it's exactly how I acted when we had Shaun on the first time on small screen, which you said you watched, and then I did a one-on-one interview with him that we broke down all this stuff, which you also said you watched, Charlie.
So, if it makes you feel any better, I had a meeting this week with an actor who's written a script for my day job, where I'm a story editor, a story executive, and he was somebody that was in a movie that meant a lot to me in the late 80s, early 90s, and I completely nerded out and then had to apologize to him and say, I am aware of the rest of your work as well. So
Charlie, I'm just giving you a hard time. Like, I know, like,
I know you are. I know
you have
I'm
friends. When you have friends as YouTubers, I was like, hey, check out this video I did. Okay. And then you said, hey, I did this. Okay. And it's like, you finally get around to it like 2 weeks later, because you're so busy creating, it's hard to watch anyone else's stuff. I do try and especially like 2-hour live streams.
Yeah, that's true. It's very hard to keep up on. It's hard for me to keep up on stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't remember, like he just talked a minute ago about an episode I don't really remember making.
Oh man, I'm collecting myself. My bad. James was talking to me, and I'm hearing James, but I'm like trying. Okay, collect yourself. You're an adult. You are an adult now. You're not a 5-year-old child.
So, where did you first see Jon Stewart?
That Justice League animated series.
Okay,
that was my first introduction to the character, and then from there it spiraled out into me wanting to look up more stuff about him, the voice actor. Looked into again. I made a whole video essay about the character.
I'll send you his video essay, Shaun.
Okay, thanks.
It's really good.
Because I remember buying that first Jon Stewart Green Lantern Green Arrow issue off the stands as a kid and being really excited about it.
Oh man, the character is, for me, it's a multitude of things. Me being in the family of veterans, so he's a veteran, he's a black man, he's also an architect, so he's creative, and he has all these different things that were part of my life that kind of was encompassed in the one character. And then he got time to shine in that show as well and do things. I think
you want me to play a bit of it?
I don't want. I can't watch my own stuff. I cringe too hard. I can't make it through that video. I'll
play the first 30 seconds.
Okay, but okay, but it's dope. It's dope. I love the character.
Buffering.
Heroes. We look to them as a marker on the map of what a human being should strive to be. Brave, strong, fearless, or in the case of one of my favorite heroes, possessing a tremendous amount of willpower.
Buffering.
I'm cringing.
Buffering.
So
there
buffering.
We go. I guess
Hearing
that's
your
all
own
we're
voice
getting.
is really
Don't.
weird.
It looks good.
I love it
It's
still.
really
It's really tough for me to like hear my own voice still, or like that was like my first big video essay I can think of. So like seeing where I am now versus where I was then is like, oh, you messed up.
I know that feeling. Yeah.
But it needed to be made. Thanks, James. I appreciate the plug, James.
All good, man. All good. Chrisa says, what movie, Shaun? You're probably not at liberty to say.
No, I can't. Yeah. I can't talk about it. It's something that I'm developing over at my day job.
Bobby says, and Animaniacs. Yes.
Briefly, I was a production assistant on Animaniacs, and I wrote some Pinky and the Brain.
So I'm curious as to, since you worked on that property beforehand, how do you feel about some of those characters from that show now getting like a new light with like the Lantern series coming up? Do you still have like a connection to the characters, or is it kind of like a thing you just did?
It's a little bit of both. I mean,
you can ask him about how he feels about the Aquaman 2 movie as well.
Because I wrote the Aquaman comic in the 90s. I mean, I have some of the characters I have like a really strong connection to. I I still have a certain amount of feelings about Batman should be a certain way, and I have trouble moving away to see what other people are doing with it. I have a really strong connection to Aquaman because he was one of my favorite superheroes when I was a kid. Were in order: Aquaman, Luke Cage, Captain America, and Luke Cage. Those were my favorites. And out of those, I've only really been happy with the way Captain America's come across in media. I think Luke Cage had I like the Luke Cage character a lot better in Jessica Jones than I did in his own series.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So those characters I have a really strong connection to. I obviously have a strong connection to Batman because I did some ridiculous number of episodes of shows, Batman and Superman, because Superman meant a real lot to me when I was a little kid. So those characters I have trouble. Yes, Nick Cage. Edward. Yes, it's Nick Cage is the one. I once had a meeting with Nick Cage's German Shepherd, actually.
wait, what? The German Shepherd specifically. Okay.
No, I did. I went in to pitch a movie to Saturn Films, Nick Cage's company, and Cage wasn't there, but I was meeting with the guy who was the president of the company. And when I walked into the office, stop me if I'm telling a story, James, that I've told before. You're
Keep going.
boring about. I walked in the office and there's nobody in the office, but there's just German Shepherds sitting behind the receptionist desk.
That's the most Nick Cage thing I've ever heard in my life.
And the German Shepherd looks at me and it runs back. And then the Seth, it was the guy's name, comes out and said, introduces himself. The dog comes out with him and he goes, Nick's out of town and I'm taking care of his dog. Do you mind if the dog sits in on the meeting? And I'm like, this is like some kind of Hollywood test. It's like he's seeing how long I'm going to go along with things, or perhaps the dog's going to report to Nick. So we went into this conference room, this huge conference room, and had all these antique circus posters on the wall. And the fucking dog sits at the head of the table and it just watches us while we're having the meeting.
That is insane.
But anyway, those characters I feel a real connection to. I think out of all the stuff we've talked about, I think Jon Stewart's the one who's so far been treated best in other media. I think he's gotten a better treatment than a lot of the others.
So I know you guys briefly spoke about it a little bit earlier when I was in here. I'm guessing you weren't a fan of the Affleck Batman, I'm assuming.
No, I like
Okay.
Affleck as Batman a lot. I don't like the projects, but I liked him a lot.
All right. For me personally, I liked him as Bruce Wayne, but I think one of the gentlemen said it earlier. I didn't really like the Batman adaptation of him. Just from my personal experience, whenever I'm looking at material that showcases the character, the one thing that's consistent with him is that consistent need to save people, even at the detriment of other people. He has to save people. So now that you have him murdering at willy-nilly without a second thought, I'm like, it just didn't feel like Batman. But I do understand it's a different version of the character, so I kind of had to fix that in my mind.
For James is probably tired of hearing, and I know Edward's tired of hearing me say that once you put armor on him, he's not Batman to me anymore. So I think it's something else. So that's where I kind of stand on that stuff. But as far as performance goes and as far as choice of somebody to play it, I think Affleck's pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's an amazing actor.
Edward has the suggestion for Charlie. Ask Shaun about his thoughts on Robert Pattinson's Batman.
A lot of strolling. I never pictured Batman as strolling before.
True, I'll give you that.
There was a lot of stuff in that movie I liked. There really was. I kind of liked the emo take on Bruce Wayne. It wasn't any place I thought that was going to go, but I kind of thought it worked. I thought the costumes were good. I liked the big battle on the chandeliers and stuff. I thought that was very, very Batman. I liked the fact that they were playing with the idea that he's a detective. But just some of the movement, I don't understand. Like if you want to make a Batman movie, Batman swings. Batman comes down out of nowhere and then goes into nowhere. He doesn't wander into a room.
Right.
Walk into a nightclub.
I will say I don't know. I know they wanted to make that movie the bare bones. This is Batman at his basic. So I don't know if they gave any information about him training with any, because usually with the character he goes around the world and trains to learn all these different things.
Right.
This one feels like he took a couple martial arts classes in Gotham and then went to be Batman. Like, I don't get the sense that he knows how to do all that stuff to that extent quite yet.
I dig the idea that it's a stripped down Batman, that he doesn't have all the equipment, that it's a guy in a costume going out and doing stuff. I really like that. I mean, I was at a meeting once where they were talking about how Batman and Robin failed, and under my breath I said, if you give me the back lot at night and a guy in tights, I'll make you a better Batman movie than you've ever had till now.
I don't disagree with you. That was not it. Which hopefully it like after watching it, I'm thinking that they're gonna like make him more experienced as time goes on. Like, I wouldn't mind like a couple time skips throughout I don't know if it's a trilogy or how many movies they're planning on making with that one, but
well, apparently it was supposed to be one, and
really,
and now they're gonna do more.
That's one with Joker.
Yeah. They knew a trilogy was gonna happen like after the first week.
Mm-hmm. It was too successful.
Yeah,
where people liked it too much. It was the same way with the Joker, where I think didn't the director say he didn't want to make more than that one Joker movie, and now they're doing the sequel with like Gaga, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I do like the fact that they specify that all those movies are Elseworld movies, so now they can do what they want creatively without having to make them be attached to another continuity. They can be creatively different. Which is where I think some of the MCU stuff suffers a little bit. You don't really have the time to do what they want to do with the movie because they have to follow other beats and storylines and whatnot.
A lot of directors,
I agree with that.
Yeah, a lot of directors have been frustrated or left projects because of that. Things had to fit into the Edgar Wright for one with Ant-Man.
Did that just happen with the director of the Blade movie, with the previous one?
Yeah.
Which...
Well, I think he was just unhappy. They were just unhappy with the script. They only had like 2 fight scenes, and that probably could have had a lot to do with having to fit into the larger Marvel universe.
Yeah. Only 2 fight scenes?
Yeah, you should have watched last stream. We went all through that. We got an exclusive article on it too, Charlie.
I read the article. I haven't watched the stream yet. I read the article. I was at work, so I sacrificed potentially getting fired to support you guys, man. I love you guys.
I think what Edward said in the comments is absolutely right. I think Gunn sat down and went, what can we do that Marvel won't do? And the idea of breaking this up, and it doesn't have to be, he has chapter 1, which is going to be a continuing story, but they're also going to be able to do these other pocket universe or Elseworlds movies and still do different takes on the characters. And I think that's a really kind of smart idea. The only problem is it going to be overkill at some point where people are just going to be, have Superman fatigue?
True. But I think that's where they bring, because aren't they doing a Swamp Thing show as well? And Supergirl's getting her own movie now. It seems like they're taking liberty, especially with the Lantern stuff. They're involving a lot more characters that aren't used as much. Like I know most people don't know about Kilowog as the character, but I love to see him on the screen again and actually be a great character. That'd be fun to see.
Yeah, I would too. Just no more Nort, please.
Yeah.
Just gonna say, why not?
They don't understand. I mean, that Nort's always driven me crazy. I mean, the joke is that he's supposed to be Art Carney from the Honeymooners, and nobody seems to be able to write that.
Right.
I'd love to see this dog with a power ring. Hey, Howdy boy, it's great to be here. It's sort of like Yogi Bear.
I think we're getting the Red Lantern cat.
Really?
He's been teasing
Dexter?
cats. He's been teasing cats a lot, and he retweeted someone who put up an image of the Red Lantern cat. What's his name, Charlie?
Dexter, I think, or Dexter.
Yeah, Dexter. That's it. Yeah. I think we're gonna get Dexter probably in the Lanterns. I know a few people that'll be excited about that.
I think this has the potential of done right. This may overtake Marvel. Fresh.
I want Kilowog and I want Chip.
Chip would be great.
Yeah.
The chipmunk, Charlie.
I was thinking, you're the one with the little mask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think we're gonna get the Living Planet?
Ego, that'd be fire. Ego would be
amazing.
No,
Ego's Marvel.
Mogo.
Yeah. Ego's Marvel.
I feel like there's some copyright issues there. We can't use Ego. Cool, Mogo. We'll make it. It'll be the same character. That's crazy.
I think Edward's drinking. I'm
that where we're
looking
going?
at his comments.
Edward Lauder says, "I'm pissed with Gunn. No Batmite TV show and subsequent movie. How dare he fire James Gunn?" This is what Edward does. When he says he can't make the live stream, and then he'll just be in the chat the whole time. I once did a live stream called "Where in the World was Edward Lauder," and I was gonna do the whole live stream about guessing where he is and stuff. But in like the first 1 minute, he commented, "Yeah, where am I?" So I couldn't do the whole stick.
Like World
He's-
Waldo.
He's sitting in his office laughing. He's got his glass of red wine. He's got his baguette and his brie.
That's good. This cheese.
Oh man.
The one thing about this slate, though, is it really seems like you talked earlier, Shaun, about him respecting the creators, right? Actually, yeah, Dark Shadow. I was just pulling everything up. That's why I was looking this way. So I've got everything ready to go over the Authority in a minute. We're just gonna finish up the slate here. You said you were hoping that he would respect the creators, right? And it looks like because he name dropped Grant Morrison's Robin and Batman, Batman and Robin, Tom King, Supergirl, right? I think that he is going to base them off of these properties, and I'm wondering how much of
The true beginning of the DCU. This is called Superman Legacy. And
how much that I can't remember. Was it not Superman Reborn?
That was All-Star Superman.
All-Star, yeah, Superman All-Star. I wonder how much that is going to play a part.
There's two things I'd like to see. I wouldn't mind seeing some of these creators given a shot to actually write a movie, which seems to have been put on the table several times and then taken away. I'd also like to see, if they don't write it, I'd like to see them get a decent payment for the work that they've done. Because from what I understand, it's pretty catch as catch can as to when they will pay when and what they pay writers. And they really stick.
Keep going, Shaun. Yeah.
Edward's distracting me with talking about food.
I know.
They it seems to be sometimes they will pay the creators a decent amount for using their story, and sometimes they don't. Because of the work for hire thing, they don't really have to. It depends on what the creator's contract is, but it's just the right thing to do, and give some of these people a chance to write a movie. I mean, you shell out so much money and you go through so many scripts. Like, what's it going to kill you to pay someone $150,000, $200,000 on a $100 million movie to get a draft of a script by a person who actually understands the story?
Right, which they should have done with you guys when they were trying to get Superman off the ground. Back then when you were in Warner Brothers Animation. Yeah. Right.
Well, it was last week I told the story, like I was out for lunch with somebody from the lot and they said, I don't know why they just don't hire you guys to make the Superman movie. I'm like, yeah, we would like that.
And, so many fans were saying that at the time. I know I was with my friends. It's like, why don't they just get the people that do Paul Dini and Bruce Timm's animated universe to make the movies?
They have this. It's like what I was talking about with Marvel. I'm sorry, James, I interrupted you.
Go ahead.
They put it off in little things. Like I went in when we were doing Return of the Joker. I went in and did a presentation to the feature people saying, look, we're making Return of the Joker for $5 million. We can make one of these every year for you easy. We can make a Superman, we can make a Batman, we can make every year, release it in theaters until you figure out what you want to do with the live action movies, and set it like Thanksgiving weekend, there's going to be a Batman movie. There's going to be a Batman movie every year, and we can do it easy for you. And, a $5 million investment in a movie is not that much. And they literally said, no one will go to a movie theater and see an animated Batman movie.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Those were their exact words. And then Spider-Verse came out. So
I have a question, because this has always perplexed me. We've talked about it on the show a million times.
One second, Charlie.
Go
I
ahead,
just wanted to finish what I was saying about the Bruce Timm. I don't think, the more I thought about it afterwards, I didn't think he would be a good fit.
Bruce?
For the live action. Yeah.
He doesn't want to do it. He told me a number of years ago when I was working there, he thought he was too old and he didn't want to move into live action. He had his world, and that's where he wanted to be.
I just think, I don't know. There was a few reasons that I had, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I just think I think it was because when the animated film started to go a bit downhill, and I think that's when they went different directions, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't Bruce Timm and it's Paul Dini, and I think transferring that to a live action, I would have loved to seen the Bruce Timm Paul Dini universe live action, but I don't know how well it would have translated because you have 22-minute episodes and you tell a lot of stuff, but you got to shoot a movie for 2 hours and you got to shoot over a couple of years. How much of that are they going to get in? You know?
Well, it's look at Return of the Joker and Mask of the Phantasm. Someone just said
Edward says it's his favorite movie. I saw that in the theater. I love that movie. Yeah.
I mean, it's just what is the way you approach something like this is what is this thing? What are the elements that make this, and what are the elements that make this to me? And then you allow the movie to be that. You don't try and shoehorn in a bunch of other elements. You don't try and like fix it for a mass audience. You let the thing be what the thing is. And that's.
Do you think they would have let Bruce Timm and Paul Dini do that?
No, they didn't. They didn't let Tim Burton do it, and he was incredibly successful. They didn't let Joel Schumacher do it, and he'd already done a big hit Batman movie plus a bunch of other good movies. I mean, Schumacher's smaller films are all brilliant.
Tigerland, Phone Booth, 8mm,
Lost Boys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not. This is the guy who knows how to make a movie, and they wouldn't leave him alone. You know, they wouldn't leave Tim Burton alone. I think in some place he said in the first Batman movie, there's about 10 minutes that he says that's mine. You know, right. So that they weren't going to leave anybody alone.
And they did this to their musicians too. I mean, even Frank Zappa has been saying this since he had been saying that since the late 70s.
Yeah, so, Danzig Falling Down. Great.
Yeah. I just rewatched that a couple months ago. Sorry, Charlie, what were you saying?
No, it wasn't too far off from where you guys already were as far as the reluctance to bring the team that worked on that stuff into, or even if just continuing the animated stuff you guys did in another way. Because I know like them releasing that box cassette that wasn't as successful as a thing with the Netflix being around, like coming up at the same time, right?
The Batman the Animated Series box set?
Oh no, Justice League.
Oh,
if I remember right, there's like a box set that came out, right? And then Netflix was starting to come up at the same time, and it was also on that platform, right?
Yeah, but those things, I think they figure they're going to sell a certain amount of those anyway. So, I don't think nobody knew what was going to happen with streaming, so they were just throwing stuff out. Nobody could see the, physical media not becoming such a big thing. I mean, physical media saved shows. I mean, Family Guy went back on the air because the DVDs sold a lot, and they cut a deal where they could produce them for less money.
Same with Futurama.
Yeah. So, there were a couple changes in who was running the studio, and that was a big change. And that was when they started going towards this sort of like what I call sort of fake anime stuff, as opposed to what the show looked like. I mean, a lot of that stuff to me looked like the stuff that we talked about we would never do. So
how much involvement?
You're talking about Young Justice, right? That style, and then
all of the stuff that came, all that stuff seemed like it had this anime influence, and the animation just seemed like it wasn't that great.
Young Justice, I could see it.
I mean, there was a sort of like,
See, I love that. I really do like that style, but I think, and they really went with that overlay over the animation. They really went with that. Do you know what I'm talking about? They had like an overlay layer on top of the animation to give it that texture feel.
Well, it's a filter.
Yeah,
it's a filter to make it look like film. What happened was when you went to
but it's not even the film filter. It's like it's some form of, it's a texture like to give it kind of a pulpy feel. I know they did this. They did a lot in the Red Sun. Yeah.
I think it's a filter. The big difference between cell animation
it's a layer, Shaun.
All right. Between cell animation and digital animation is that you can have almost
different layers.
You can have almost infinite layers. With cell animation, you get beyond 3 or 4 and the figure, it starts to get cloudy. That was the big thing that we were like, oh, we can do endless moire patterns now.
Yeah, and that was towards the end of Batman and Robin when they went more digital with the digital animation because
No,
they
it was
that episode. Go ahead.
Batman Beyond was the first digital production. I signed the contract for it to be Warner Brothers' first digital production.
Interesting.
And Batman Beyond was before or after Batman and Robin finished?
I don't know what you mean by Batman and Robin because they were all produced as Batman. Are you talking about the Fox show, The
New
Adventures
Yeah.
of Batman and Robin?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that it was Batman Beyond was quite a few years after that. The Adventures of the show that was on Fox ended production around 93 or 94, and
Okay.
Batman Beyond went into production in 99.
Okay, maybe. Okay, so there's an episode in the Batman and Robin animated series where Barbara Gordon is having a dream, right? And it starts off with Commissioner Gordon and the police hunting Batman and Robin, and they meet up with Nightwing in a cave, and there's a whole boat sequence.
That's New Batman Adventures. That's
Yeah, New Batman Adventures.
That's what we produced as Gotham Knights. That was also before Batman Beyond. So what
Okay,
happened was
but
Superman was go on. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, sorry. You can go ahead. I know this, but go ahead. Lay it down because I made it confusing. Go ahead.
I don't know.
Superman was contracted for 65 episodes. It was cut at 52, and then we did 13 episodes of Batman at the end, and then it was broadcast as the New Batman Superman Adventures.
Okay.
Over the Edge. Yeah, that was one of the really early ones.
Yeah, one of the really early digital ones.
No.
Yes.
No.
On the special features, they talk about how they gave this North American animation house that did some digital work on it.
You might have done some digital work. Well, James, I ran the show.
But I'm saying it's not the first digital series like Batman Beyond was. I'm saying, but that was the start of bringing in the digital animation.
There might have been digital elements in terms of vehicles. We were doing some digital vehicles before that,
and then the water and the boat sequence,
the water effect, yeah,
and the rooftop fight scene with Bane and the bat symbol. It's been a while since I've seen it and watched special features, but
no, the characters were all at that time hand animated. There were probably digital effects done, but it was still shot on film and then digital effects acted. Nothing was done digitally until Batman Beyond was the second season, I think, became an all digital production, and then we had to film out at the end.
Okay.
How much?
Yeah, I wasn't trying to tell you what you know. I was trying to tell you that that's where I heard that was the introduction of going to a different animation house and trying stuff with digital. And I thought that was like, in my brain, that always planted the seeds to where you guys went with Batman Beyond and everything else.
No, it made financial sense to do it.
How much input, if any at all, did you guys have on the Fatal 5 movie that came out not too long ago? None?
I haven't been there since 2006, so I've had absolutely no input on anything. Dark Shadow wants to know why we're talking about animation.
Because it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about with the Slate, because it all comes from the comic books and the animation.
Yeah, and Gunn is doing an animated series. It sounds like it's going to be an adult series too. Doesn't sound like it's going to be kids. At least from what I saw, it didn't sound like it.
Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
Creature Commandos is an animated series. I've written all the episodes.
Interesting. You think he wrote all the episodes?
He said he already wrote them all.
Wow. Okay, so he is getting involved in like writing and directing with some of this stuff, right?
He's going to write and direct Superman.
Okay.
Did he say he was directing Superman?
I thought he did. I know he's writing it.
Yeah, he's writing it, but
I'm excited. This is as far as being a nerd, this stuff, starting with the animated series, what got me into all this stuff to begin with and made me a fan of games, anime, all that different stuff. So I'm so excited. Like the inner child of me is coming back out to see all this stuff come back and actually hopefully done well.
So the last couple episodes, Shaun, of Batman and Robin weren't digital. That just wow.
Okay, it wasn't. First of all, it wasn't Batman and Robin. It was produced as none of it was produced as Batman and Robin. The original series was produced as Batman the animated series.
Charlie, Sean's getting mad at me now.
No, it's just because everybody starts talking to me about like, do you remember when the new Batman Superman Adventures were on? Like, yeah, but we didn't make them that way. We made it as Gotham Knights.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
But none of that was digital, huh? There
I mean,
probably was
there might have been
few.
digital. There might have been digital effects on it, but the episode itself, I do not believe was digital, and I don't know. Are you sure you're not getting it mixed up with the main titles for Justice League? Because we used an American we used a Cantina Films in Burbank to do that.
No, because I remember it was on the special features of Over the Edge, where they said this was this episode we tried something different. We gave it to an animation house, an American animation house, and there's some digital scenes in there. What I'll have to do is I'll have to clip it out for you, and I'll send it to you.
Side note, is that Gotham Knights show live action still happening?
Yeah, apparently. Whether it goes past one season or not is a different story.
So fun thing,
but
apparently
it's
the university I work at now, they were filming it here. It's like I was coming to work like my first 3 days, and I saw they had remade they made a Gotham University. I was like, what? I thought this was canceled, but it'll be dope. I'll send you the pictures later. But I got pictures of like the set when they were still changing stuff around.
With Shaun, there was the episode where it's the three kids talking about Batman stories, and one was the Dick Sprang story, and the other one was the Frank Miller's Dark Knight, and then they did the A side kind of Joel Schumacher thing. I heard Batman is all fancy costume and his Batmobile drives up walls, and then there's the kid with the scarf.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty funny, and that looked like it had some digital elements too. So
they might have had elements. I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't have all my notes from then. I mean, that's I just looked up Over the Edge. We produced that in '97.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, you're talking about the actual Gotham Knights animated, the short movie, right? With the anthology series type thing?
No, what was shown as the new Batman Superman Adventures, the Batman episodes were produced as Gotham Knights because we were supposed to be doing it as a separate show. And then they decided to put them together.
Okay.
So they did an hour-long block.
Yeah, it's when they changed the style.
Yeah.
They changed the animation. It was more angular and thin.
That was the early days of the internet where everyone was saying Bruce Timm has gone too far and this will certainly fail.
Oh my God.
Thank you,
character design.
Thank you, Usenet.
Oh wow.
So the Authority. There are people dying to talk about the Authority. Right. I think that's an interesting choice.
Okay. All right. Now, the Authority. So the Authority consists of a bunch of characters that Jenny Sparks pulled together to make this team. Like Gunn briefly said that it's a bunch of superheroes that doesn't like how the world's working, and then they go and try and do what they want. Well, first they try and work with the government and stuff, and different kind of governments, but then it's the whole journey of how much does power absolutely corrupt, I think, is the whole premise of the series, written by Warren Ellis. It consists of, so Jenny Sparks, she was born in the year 1900, and she's a century baby. Century babies are kind of like, I guess, superheroes in the Wildstorm universe. You have Mr. Snow from Planetary. He was born in 1900. You have the Doc Savage guy. I can't remember his name, Shaun, if you remember the character's name. Yeah, he was like...
not Tom Strong, right? Or is it Tom Strong?
I think it's Tom... No, not Tom Strong. That's from
America's
that series.
Best Comics.
Yeah. But it's like a Doc Savage character. And so there's these century babies. And Jenny Sparks can shoot lightning and control electricity. But her moods and how she thinks is being representative by the times. So in the 1930s, the Great Depression, she's depressed. In the 80s, everyone's like drinking, doing cocaine. So she's drinking. She's always drinking anyways. But so she's like the leader. And then you have Jack Hawksmoor. And he was a kid. Aliens abducted him and did a bunch of experiments on him. And he can communicate with cities. And he can teleport between the two cities through the ground. So if he's fighting, say, a giant monster in France, then he can ask the buildings to attack the giant monster. The cities talk to him. It's great for intel and reconnaissance, and he is kind of becomes like a pseudo leader down the line. And then you have Midnighter and Apollo, which is like Warren Ellis's Batman and Superman. Apollo is they're a couple, and Apollo is charged by the sun, and Midnighter he basically knows every move when he gets into a fight. This is because of a mad scientist created them or took their bodies and altered them and their brains. They don't have no memory. The scientist was named Henry Bendix, so we're going to get to see some Henry Bendix in the live action scene, live action movies. So Midnighter, if he can tell all the moves and all the outcomes of a fight even before it starts, and his catchphrase is something like, "I know all the moves. I know how this fight's gonna go each and every way. It's been over since it started." And so you've got these two, and the dynamic between them is really, really good. And then you have the mystery of Henry Bendix, and that ties into a lot of the different characters. Midnighter is my favorite. I'm not a big fan of what they did when they brought him into DC Comics, but I really like his standalone series. He's a complete badass. You send him on a mission, and he'll like kill like 200 people. He's traveled through time. He's taken on Hitler. It's absolutely hilarious.
Taking on Hitler. That's wild.
Yeah. Then you have the engineer. She's the second engineer. We never really get to meet the first engineer, and she's got nanobots in her bloodstream, and she communicates what they call a shift ship. And the Authority has a shift ship that kind of hangs out in the Bleed, and the Bleed is like in between realities. So when you're reading the comic book, you'll see a caption, and it says the shift ship, the Authority shift ship, hanging out between where dreams and ideas meet. You know, it's in its own reality, and they have doors on the shift ship where you just have to say door, and it will take you to anywhere you want on planet Earth. Now, the thing with the shift ship is it's alive, and it's powered by a caged baby universe, and that plays a big part in the story.
This is wild.
Yeah, and then you have Swift. Swift is kind of like the bird lady, I guess. She's a Tibetan monk, and I can't remember where her powers come from. You have to forgive me on that. It's been a while since I've read it. But because she was a Tibetan monk, and then her character arc is basically getting along with the team and opening up, she actually gets really badass later on. And then you have the Doctor. And now on this Earth, there's always a doctor for generations and generations, like a shaman. And basically, if a bunch of goons are shooting bullets at the Doctor, he can just change them to rose petals. You know, he is the overpowered being besides Apollo in this team. But the problem is he's a heroin junkie, and he's kind of unstable. But the thing is, and if you think about it, like with Black Panther, where, you know, like you can go and you can talk to the ancestors. Mm-hmm. The Doctor can go into I think it's the Doctor plane where all the previous Doctors are, and he has all the knowledge of them too. So yeah, that's the Authority. And I don't really want to go through what happens in the comics too much, but let's just say that there is a split off world where aliens came in during around the 1800s and assimilated with the British Empire, and there's a whole parallel world war between the two planets. It's always a catastrophe. I don't know how big they're going to go with this movie. I think, like we talked about it earlier, Shaun, that whether it's PG-13 or rated R, I think it'll be rated R. But the thing that's got me excited about this, I'm just going to bring it up here, because with the Authority coming now into a live action film, I mean, I think that means we're going to get Planetary, because Planetary comes with Mr. Snow, and this series is absolutely fantastic. See, there's Mr. Snow. He's a Century's baby, just like Jenny Sparks is. And the thing about being a Century baby is your memories are either all there or they're not, or they get wiped or whatever for plot conveniences. But Planetary is good because you've read Planetary, right, Shaun?
A long time ago. I read it
Yeah.
I read some of it when it first came out.
Each arc is like a love letter to a different era in pop culture, comic books, and film. So you have like the Fantastic Four one we talked about on this stream or the podcast the other week, Shaun. It's Warren Ellis's take on Fantastic Four.
Right.
You have the big Harryhausen kind of claymation Dinosaur Island with the skeletons. It's absolutely fantastic. But to get back to the Authority, go ahead, Shaun.
Well, how is that gonna play with the general audience? You need for us, we look at that and go, oh, it's cool that they're bringing this stuff up, but it's not that the audience isn't going to understand it, but what's the story? That's my question with that kind of stuff, because a lot of that sort of played on just it's doing a 180 degree look at characters that we've all loved before. But is that going to play with the general audience? I can see the Authority working better because it is. Dark Shadow said it's a light version of Justice League. It's actually a darker version of Justice League. And so I can see that sort of like those archetypes hitting, but I don't know that the archetypes of Planetary are going to hit with a wide audience. I'm not saying they won't. I'm saying I don't know.
Right. But didn't we say? I think we mentioned on a podcast before that it would make a really good HBO Max limited series.
It'd be an interesting one. I don't know that, but you know what? Peacemaker is pretty in joke too, and it works. So
yeah, I think there's enough there for Planetary to work as a series, to be honest with you, and especially because one episode could be one of those arcs.
Yeah,
and then you have like the Fantastic Four of that universe threading throughout each episode, which makes sense. But no, I understand what you're saying. If it's too far out there, what's the appeal? But I think James Gunn knows how to take those obscure characters, the Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad and stuff, and make them into something mainstream. But we'll see. I'm just hoping that we'll get Planetary. This is far-fetched. This is me dreaming. But because we're getting the Authority and we're getting Jenny Sparks, I think there's a good chance down the line. And, you're right. It depends how they respond, how the audience responds.
I'm going to eat my words because the Watchmen TV series worked really well. And I don't know that I was watching it going, I understand all this, but I don't know if anybody who hasn't read the book is going to get this stuff. So, and apparently people did. So I think it's interesting that he's willing to take a risk like this, and it's going to be a big budget risk too. It's not because you could probably do Planetary on a reasonable budget, but once you get to the Authority, you're talking Justice League Avengers numbers.
It's gonna be insane.
And it's great that he's not going what DC Films was doing before, was like, we're going to ape Marvel and we're going to do a Batman movie, and then we're going to do a Superman movie, and then we're going to put them together and stuff like that. It's like, we're just going to jump in and go.
Honestly, after seeing projects like Everything Everywhere All at Once, or watching something like Lovecraft, I don't think anything's ever too far out there for a general audience now, as long as it's done well.
Yeah. And
good stuff in general.
And I got into a big argument at work. No, Rag TV, it's not arguably better than the Watchmen movie. It is better than the Watchmen movie. Everything Everywhere All at Once, I got into a big argument at work with people talking about how could they make it on that low budget, because I think they made it for like 25 million or something like that, and they made it for that because they didn't have 12 producers and 15 executive producers all feeding on that trough.
And they had the five members of the team doing all the visual effects on computers at home together. That saved a lot of money too.
That's amazing.
We'll get to this comment at the end. We'll probably have a really good discussion about that. 6v6 GC. Chrisla says none of this sounds budget conscientious.
No.
Conscious. I think
it doesn't, does it?
Does the animation? The animation seems pretty.
Maybe. I'm not. Sean's the expert on that.
Animation's expensive to begin with. I mean,
do you think Do you think this?
Paradise Lost is the story of Paradise Island, usually known as Themyscira, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman.
You mentioned it'd be like Game of Thrones. Do you think that's going to be a big budget?
That'd be sick.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be costy, and I'm there for it. I think it's a great way to approach that character. I mean, to me, the problem with Wonder Woman is that I've only seen 2 Wonder Woman stories that I personally really liked, and one was when she first comes to man's world, and the other one is I love the '60s series when she loses her powers and she just has to figure out how to be a kick-ass woman in the '60s. And, I really, that was my favorite period of that, and I know I'm alone in that. But going at Themyscira like that is really smart, I think.
How big do you think the budget will be?
I think it's going to be spendy, but the idea of pitching as like a Game of Thrones type thing is pretty damn smart.
Honestly, if I were them, I'd probably not around. I'm going to launch it around the same time as the next season, but relatively close enough to where you can like market it as something like that, because that's people can have that association and probably give it more of a chance.
I think the Waller series could probably have the same budget as the Peacemaker series.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Because you just got to put Viola Davis in the give her the right script and just let her go at that point. Give her the right people.
Yeah. Just get Viola Davis and turn the camera on and come back when she's done.
That's an easy money maker right there.
Yep.
I'm being honest with you. That is one is probably the most guaranteed, but money making thing that they produce, they've shown to be produced out of anything else. Because you're gonna have me being a member of the Black community, we're behind Viola Davis. She's almost like Barack, where she can nearly do no wrong. She's or her Angela Bassett. Those are she's one of the highly coveted Black elders within our community. So we're gonna watch and support her in whatever she does. And if she's good, that's just even more money you're gonna get out of that. You're gonna get money either way, but if it's good, oh man, it's gonna get popular.
Yeah, it's a really smart, and it's a chance to do something in the DC universe that isn't like a big world-spanning story. It's a chance to do what goes on behind the scenes and that kind of stuff.
It's going to get. I think it'll get a lot of comparisons to that Secret Invasion. So with Sam Jackson, which another one I'm also highly anticipating because he's one of my favorite actors of all time. So you got 2 people who are relatively similar characters, kind of not even inverses of each other. Man, it's good if you're into anything nerdy right now. It's going to be a really good next decade, probably.
We hope.
Hopefully,
yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I'm old enough to remember we were really excited about Trial for the Incredible Hulk. So,
oh god, I'm so scared of World War Hulk. I'm so terrified. That's my favorite Hulk story of all time. Well, Planet Hulk.
Sorry, Trial of the Incredible Hulk. Charlie, you ever seen pictures or anything from that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, let me bring it up.
Is that the one? Is that the one that had Thor in it?
Yeah.
Was it supposed to be animated or live action?
No, there's a TV movie. They were trying to revive the Marvel TV shows in the late 80s, early 90s.
I'm trying to think.
There, Charlie. Where'd it go? Right here.
Oh Lord.
Oh, that's the one with Daredevil. It's the one with Daredevil.
Yeah. Daredevil, and
Kingpin. No, those were 2 different movies. One had Thor in it, and one had Return of the Incredible Hulk, and then Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, Death of the Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
Wow.
So it had Rex Smith, Teen Idol, as Matt Murdock Daredevil. He was blind though, and it had John Rhys Davies as Wilson Fisk.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I'm just hearing the sad music in my head from the original Hulk. That's all I see, and that's all I hear in my head. That is insane.
Anyways,
that was a thing.
Yes, Edward says we forgot about Swamp Thing. We're getting there. I asked a bunch of people on socials what they're looking forward to the announcement, and a lot of them said Constantine. And I've talked about this before. It's the magic users in these universe, by the way, Constantine and Jenny Sparks from the Authority know each other well, so that'll be interesting.
I wonder how.
But yeah, magic
Nope.
users like Etrigan and Constantine and even Doctor Strange that don't really gel with me in my superhero comics and properties for some reason. But Doctor Fate a lot for me. So I hope we get to see Doctor Fate a lot more. I think because Doctor Fate, yes, it's magical, but it's also on a science level. You know, there's different planes of existence and different planes that he travels to, and it is also magical. But
well, God bless Marty Pasco, God rest his soul, for coming up with the idea of the Lords of Chaos and Order, and that Dr. Fate's an agent of order. That Marty did that one issue with Walt Simonson. I think it was first issue special with Dr. Fate, and it was I read that as a kid and like I want to see Detective Chimp too. I want to see Detective Chimp meet Space Cabbie.
Yeah.
You know, I want to go in and pitch a Tommy Tomorrow TV series.
See, for me, James, I think I feel the exact opposite of you when it comes to the interest of the Constantine Etrigan stuff. I really enjoy whenever you get a world, especially when you have an established world already that has its rules and things of that nature, and you get to see the entire other magic world and how that fits. So like for me, I think that's kind of like the Hellboy stuff a lot, seeing how like they've always been there and lived within that world and seeing the nuances of like where they
yeah, but that's cool because it's the Hellboy world, and Hellboy is the cream of the crop in that world, and they've always been there, and you know the BRPD and stuff.
Right.
But when you have like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the Ambush Bug and stuff, and then all of a sudden now it's all about hell and demons and stuff. To me, that always like here I'm reading Grant Morrison's JLA run, and this is great. We're getting the character development, we're getting these big threats, and then all of a sudden it slows down because we have Etrigan and this kid with a pen, and he can bring in this demon, and it's like what? And it's not that I didn't enjoy it; it kind of like stutters it for me. It's hard to explain.
They were created to be pockets of each other, right? There was a time when I was writing for DC, Vertigo and the DC universe were not going to meet. They were two completely separate things. And then it was a marketing thing, or a business decision to try and like, now we have to merge these together. And they weren't made to be merged together. I mean, Dr. Fate is a magical superhero. The Spectre the Spectre works for God. We all know that. But he's a guy in tights. And then Constantine's got a trench coat and a cigarette. And it could be interesting, but it does feel sort of like you're putting a square peg in a round hole in the DC universe.
Right. You explained what I've been trying to explain for years now. Thank you.
That's okay.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
I'm here to serve.
I think that stuff can work as long as you don't make that like an extinction level event. Like if it's self-contained, right, and maybe you don't have the devil, but you can have representatives of the devil where he just wants to affect stuff. I think it'll work then.
I don't care if you have the devil or not. But it's like Legends of Tomorrow. Once Constantine was brought in there, it was like, oh, okay, well. And we have to deal with some more demon stuff and spells and enchantments and all.
Yeah,
it kind of slows it down for me. It takes me out of the moment.
I agree. If you bring that stuff in, you have to comment on it. I think you have to have Batman and Superman going to the side, going, "Look, what the hell is this guy all about?"
Right?
Yeah.
Can I just punch him because I don't like him?
Right. And Shazam's magical. But it works because he's a superhero and his idols are superheroes.
Right.
Billy Batson as a kid.
Right. So I think it could work as a one-off story, but I think trying to merge those two universes, I think, is a fool's errand.
Worst case scenario, I think you could do something like they did with the Justice League Dark stuff they did, where they brought Batman in, where it still was there, but you have a representative from the outside world kind of in here, and you're learning with Batman as far as like how this world works, what's going on, and it's still self-contained, and you get a taste of somebody that's established.
Okay, I respect. I've not.
That's me though. That's just me.
I've not looked at the Justice League Dark stuff, so
everyone's like Justice League Dark.
It's this whole fan thing. Like the darker it is, the more serious it is for some reason, and I don't think that's necessarily the way to go.
The Black Label stuff they had come out. So that's all good.
I think that's fine. I think it's like the Max series. Like like we were talking about earlier about Quesada just throwing shit against the wall and saying, let's do a dark series, let's do a Max series, let's do a noir series, but we've still got our core books.
yeah, we got Garth Ennis and C. Dillon's Punisher run, which is absolutely fantastic out of the
Yeah.
Marvel Max series.
Yeah.
And that's great. And Hellblazer was great. But I think there's a time and a place for these vehicles. And if you're gonna have Justice League Dark, maybe call it something different, because Justice League is the epitome of hope and the
Yeah.
seven.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Justice League, or Young Justice did it well because it was the stealth superhero team. It wasn't called Justice League, but it was Young Justice, and they went on spy missions. And I thought that was really cool. I've got nothing against Constantine. I think he's a fun character. I just think like that should be in its own section, and they shouldn't really combining the two. Just like it slows it down for me, and I lose interest.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
Dark Shadow, they're hedging their bets on Shazam. Now they're hedging their bets on Shazam and Aquaman. We were talking about that a little earlier. I think they want to see how well they perform and then see what they're going to do about it. But they weren't a part of what Gunn talked about today, except I'm sorry, Edward's making me laugh on purpose. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, Edward. It needs to be in French. And we need to have Jean Desjardins as Superman.
But I don't think they're really hedging their bets on Aquaman. I think he's done after Aquaman 2, and then he's going to play Lobo, or he's going to play both.
Yeah,
as we talked about last week. Yeah.
If it's crazy successful, they'll figure out a way. I mean, they've got enough makeup on; it's going to be different enough to do both. With Shazam, I think there's a lot of things going on. Zachary Levi's tweets the other day about Pfizer were kind of like you could hear the publicists at Warner's going, don't.
But James Gunn did say that whether he agrees with an actor or not, it doesn't affect the movie or the show that he's going to be working on. He came out and he said that.
Right, but he doesn't have final say. That's the thing. He works for somebody. Somebody's signing his checks.
Mm-hmm.
Have they tapped out on the whole Black Adam stuff at all? They're just done for now?
Yeah,
it's done.
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Johnson said in the future they're going to talk about where it can fit in or whatever, but I think that's just him still putting out a bit of hope. So
yeah, trying to save face and keep his fan base happy that Dwayne Johnson can never lose. Once again, Dwayne Johnson needs to go the Dave Bautista way. He needs to call his agents up and say, I don't need the biggest check for every movie made. Can you find me something interesting to do, please?
Find me a David Lynch film and I'll go work on that. Yeah.
Yeah. What's it going to, like he's got enough money. Like, is he going to buy another weight rack? For his private gym, go do something good. Burt Lancaster, the old time movie star, once again, dating myself, the end of his career in the 60s and the 70s, he said, I do one movie for the studios and then I go do one that I want to do. And that's the way I build my career. I do one that I'll do a lot of stupid movies that are going to make money. And then I'll go do something that I enjoy.
Yeah. But you can't really do one for the studio, one for yourself anymore. That doesn't really happen.
I think you could go and I think you could build like an indie movie, but I think you have to build it. I don't think, I don't think anybody will finance it. But even that, like Downey said, he stopped doing indie movies because he got tired of taking an interesting project. And after 2 days of shooting, they came and would ask him for money to help finish the movie. So I imagine that's happening to a lot of people like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's it cost to make a Nomadland? I mean, $5 million. What's that mean to somebody who's making $20 million a movie?
Right. And not even just that, like from shoes, clothes, alcohol, like you have all these endeavors making you money.
Yeah.
Invest in yourself at that point.
Yeah.
I like the smaller stuff. Like it's maybe a little bit out there, but something like the Tooth Fairy from back in the day. It was the best movie. But seeing him try to do more of an emotional thing with like having somewhat of a daughter, I'd like to see him try to go out there. We saw it with like John Cena and saw like he got to use the full emotional spectrum in the role with Peacemaker, and it worked.
Bautista's been studying acting.
Yeah,
I think maybe The Rock needs to start studying some acting.
But Chrysler, look at The Rundown and Pain and Gain, and Dwayne Johnson's. Yeah, Dwayne Johnson's really good in those.
All right. Well, we've hit the 2-hour mark. So, Charlie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you made it.
We
Hey, you made a
appreciate
dream
it.
of mine come true. Thank you, Shaun. It was amazing to meet you. Again, thank you for all your work you've done. It's been a big part of my life.
Thank you. If you were in the room, you wouldn't be thanking me because I probably smell really bad. But I appreciate your kind words. I really do appreciate it. It does when people say you made my childhood, and on one hand, it makes me feel really good about myself, and on the other hand, I just I'm elderly. That's all it means to me.
That's why I never told you that, Shaun. I didn't want to make you feel bad. All right, Charlie. I'll give you a call tonight.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, brother.
Mhm.
All right. Final thoughts on the slate, Shaun, before we wrap up.
I'm interested in it. I'm not thrilled. I didn't see anything that made me go, yeah, I really want to see this. But I think he's picked a bunch of interesting projects. I am interested to see what he does for Superman. I would really like to see a good Superman movie. So I'd like to see it. Let me put it this way: I would like to see a Superman movie that I think is good, not just what other people think is good. I think it's a great character that's sort of gotten a bad rap over the past 20, 30 years.
It's something that you've been wanting to see for a long time.
Yeah, and
because you're old.
Because I'm elderly. Yeah, I mean, I really like the Donner movie, but I realize that it feels creaky to people now. I'm not blind. So I'd like to see somebody going out. Mike's unexcited.
Well, there will be people that are unexcited, and we'll see how the Snyder fandom reacts to that. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah,
once we get a gauge on that.
And I'd like to. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I just like to say that I didn't plan to wear my Ultra Boy sweatshirt last week and my Legion sweatshirt this week, so I'll have to wear like a Captain America shirt or something next week.
I wore my Boba Fett shirt today. I said, I know this is all DC, but screw it. I was planning Boba Fett anyways. All right, well, thanks for coming on with me. And Edward, get some rest. And everyone in the chat, thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. And remember what's coming.
Gods and monsters. Now,
thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.